So we're back at it. Make sure we have everybody here. Okay. So the next case on tonight's agenda is PZC 20-1-052. There's an echo. How do I have an echo? The Islamic Center of Naperville, Gabrielle Mattingly from staff, has comments on this case before staff begins their presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Hansen. Yes, the city has received an unprecedented volume of public participation for tonight's hearing on the Islamic Center of Naperville. This includes over 2,000 names in support opposition, 770 written comments, and 160 public speakers. Due to the volume of written comments, staff does not believe that it is practical, even if the public hearing for this case is extended over several meetings, to read all the written comments into the record. Staff recommends that instead of reading the written comments submitted for this case into the record, the PZC directs staff to provide all the written comments that have been submitted to the PZC for review prior to the next public hearing on this matter, post the same comments online for public review, and add those same comments to the case file. Any person who previously submitted written comments for this case has the option to also submit oral testimony at the continued hearing date of February 3rd, 2021, or any other continuance date by signing up through the city's online speaker sign up. If the PZC concurs with this approach, staff recommends that following the display of the names submitted in support or opposition of this case, the PZC hear the in-person speakers until the PZC closes at 11 p.m. and then continue the public hearing for this case to the February 3rd meeting, at which additional speaker testimony will be taken. Please also note that several of the positions in support or opposition included written comments. Any forms that included written comments have been included in the form, which will be posted online. Chairman Hansen, does the PZC concur with this approach?
Yes. Do you need us to do roll call?
Yes, if we could please do roll call.
All right. So what, do you need us to put that in the form of a motion?
I think that would make sense.
Okay. So I'd like to move that the Planning and Zoning Commission instructs staff to post the written comments into the record for the continuation of this case, which we anticipate to be February 3rd.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Athanakar,
I agree.
Bonsall,
Agree.
Habel,
Agree.
Hansen,
Agree.
Lucerto,
Agree.
Ruchelia,
Agree.
Van Summeren.
I agree.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So that will be made public in the next packet then, Ms. Mattingly, or how will the public access that, those written comments?
Correct. So there'll be three things that are done. First, we will provide all the written comments that have been submitted to the PZC for review prior to the next public hearing. We will also be posting the same comments online on the city's website for public review. And then we will also be adding those comments to the case file, so they will be included in the next agenda packet.
Okay, that's great. All right, we, yes, because we would like to review those comments ourselves as well, as Commissioner Van Summer pointed out. And it was quite a lot of reading to get prepared for tonight with what we already have. So, let's move on. Sarah Kapinski from staff will present our case. Ms. Kapinski, it's over to you, please.
Thank you. Sarah Kapinski with the city's planning services team. The subject property for PZC 20-1-052 consists of 13.36 acres on the east side of 248th at the intersection with Honey Locust Drive. The property is zoned R1 and is owned by the Islamic Center of Naperville, or ICN. ICN proposes developing the property with a religious facility, including a mosque, school, multi-purpose hall, and gymnasium in 5 phases over the next 40 years. To do so, the petitioner requests approval of a conditional use for a religious institution in the R1 zoning district. a variance to allow parking in the front yard setback, and a variance to eliminate the fencing requirement along the north property line. The city's comprehensive plan designates the future land use of the property as community facility, which is reflective of and consistent with the religious institutions that have owned the site over the past several years. To support the request for a conditional use, the petitioner provided a detailed description of the project that outlines each phase and its associated parking needs, as well as commitments to property maintenance during construction and interim timeframes. On this slide, you can see a table outlining the phases and associated parking improvements. The first phase of construction is planned to begin within 2 years and will include a mosque with worship space for approximately 457 individuals. 2 access points will be constructed directly onto 248th to ensure the efficient flow of vehicles onto and off of the site. The proposed building is 2 stories and measures 29 feet in height. Upon final build out in 2060, a 2-story building is planned to be located near the center of the site, maximizing setbacks from each property line. Stormwater detention is planned at the rear of the site, providing green space between the proposed development and residences to the east. The proposed building is 2 stories and measures 29 feet in height. This measurement is taken at the roof deck, and staff notes that the code clearly states that ornamental towers, domes, parapet walls, and similar structures are exempt from the height limitations identified by code. Staff is supportive of the conditional use based on the site design and access points and parking proposed, compliance with required yards adjacent to residential properties and the city's height restrictions, consistency with the city's comprehensive plan, and roadway improvements the city has planned. The petitioner also requests approval of a setback variance, which would allow a parking lot to encroach 10 feet into the required 30-foot front yard along 248th, resulting in a parking lot setback 20 feet from the roadway. To mitigate the impacts of the encroachment, the petitioner will install additional landscaping to provide both a physical and visual screen between the development and the adjacent right-of-way. Staff is supportive of the request and notes that no residential driveways are located off 248th, so the encroachment does not impact any front yards on the east or west sides of the road. Lastly, the petitioner requests a variance to eliminate the fencing requirements on the north property line. The petitioner has indicated a preference not to install a fence in this location to maintain a feeling of openness from the Tallgrass Greenway Trail. Staff is supportive of the request since there are not residences directly adjacent to ICN in this location, and the petitioner has agreed to provide a continuous landscape buffer maintaining a height of 30 inches or taller. Tonight, we request that the public hearing be conducted and staff will remain available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Any questions quickly for staff before we move on to the presentation? Yes, Commissioner Bonsall. You are on mute.
We have to remember unmuting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a very quick question here. Sarah, you said conditional use approval, but then we have a religious, a school, a banquet, and a sports facility. Do they all go under one conditional use, or what is the technicality around it? I know schools are permitted, but banquet and sports, how does that work?
Correct. Just to clarify, as presented in the petition, it's what you're calling sports is a gymnasium that's going to be more associated with the school use and provide a venue for the students to take part in physical education activities and potentially other things for the different, if they have any clubs or anything. And the banquet facility you referenced is more of a multi-purpose hall to be used in conjunction with other ceremonies and things that take place in the mosque.
And yes. would you have like approximate what is the capacity of all these buildings?
We do have the proposed capacities for square footages. Would you like me to go through each of those right now, or would you prefer the petitioner go through their details and then we can revisit it?
Either way is fine. Yeah, sure. That's okay.
Okay, I'll allow the petitioner to explain the spaces in more detail, and then if you have any follow-ups, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Kapinski at this time? Okay, thank you. Hmm. Got a little technical problem here with the script. All right, so why don't we move to Mr. Monson, if you'd like to go ahead and present give us your presentation.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to get my video going here, and it's the city's not let me in on the video yet. There it goes. Great. And Sarah, could I have the screen share so I can use my presentation, please? Hello.
You have screen share.
Thank you. And let me find it here. Perfect. Okay. Good evening. My name is Len Munson. I'm with the law firm of Kuhn, Heap & Munson, 552 South Washington, here in Naperville. And tonight I'm representing the petitioner, the Islamic Center of Naperville, also known as ICN. In their petition for a conditional use and 2 variances for a religious facility on their property located on 248th Avenue. Now, as always, Sarah did a great job giving us a general overview, and there are things I'd like to go over in a little bit more detail. However, before I do, I would like to first comment on the extraordinary number of comments that have been raised by the community. It is absolutely marvelous to see the degree of interest in this project. I mean, we even got emails from out of the country. However, it is very clear from the comments that we received so far that there is a very great misunderstanding of the details. And that these objections are based on incorrect information. So I think before I get going here, I'd like to get a better understanding, or give a better understanding and address the incorrect information. So excuse me as I interrupt my regularly scripted presentation and first bring you some facts. I think the best place to start will be with the flyer that one of our neighboring homeowners associations, and hang on here, let's see, are you seeing me or my screen, my slide?
We see both.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to get oh, there we go. So this flyer was circulated to residents of the neighboring homeowners association, and also very quickly circulated to many other residents in the southwest area of Naperville. The flyer raises multiple factual concerns. Number 1, it states that the proposed height of the structure is 80 feet. Number 2, that the ICN intends for this facility to be the largest in the Midwest. Number 3, it states that we're requesting 2 variances to not construct a buffer fence. Number 4, it's objecting to the fact that this facility is going to be built in a residential area. And number 5, that the construction is being phased in 5 phases over the next 40 years. I believe a vast number of objections are based on this incorrect information as represented, as represented in this flyer. So let's review the 5 points. The first is the 80-foot structure height. 80 feet is just not accurate. It's the tallest building roof height is actually 29 feet, not 80, it's 29 feet. So to put that in perspective, our neighboring residences are allowed to have a structure on their single family homes, a height of 35 feet. So we're actually lower than our neighboring residences and still not 80 feet. Now I can see where this misunderstanding came from. In our 3rd phase in 2040, my client intends to construct an 84-foot minaret. Think steeple, not a structure. Please note that under city code, steeples and domes are not included in roof height restriction calculations. Now, Let's see what currently exists in the city regarding steeples and domes. This is St. Mary Church. You can see the slant roof and the steeple clearly exceed 35 feet. The same with Compass Church. Good Shepherd too. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I do not know exactly how tall the roofs and steeples are in these prior 3 slides I've shown. But I can assure you that the roof, dome, and spire at Saints Peter and Paul far, far exceeds 84 feet. The important point is that the steeples and domes of our existing places of worship have not negatively impacted our thriving communities, just as our proposed plan will not negatively impact our neighboring communities. The next point raised in the flyer is that we intend this to be, we're trying to construct the largest mosque in the Midwest. We have absolutely no idea where this claim came from. It's not in any of our materials. It's not our intent. As a matter of fact, it's not even factually close. Currently, in Villa Park and Bridgeview, there are 2, you might be able to call them regional mosques, that are much, much larger than what we're planning. Those exist right now. This site is intended to serve our Naperville community and the contiguous areas in conjunction with ICN's 3 existing facilities. Now, we're not replacing, we're going to still keep the 3 facilities we have, and we'll have a total of 4. This is not a replacement. To put our plan size into proper perspective, it is important to compare our capacity with the capacity of the existing houses of worship we are already familiar with. By way of example, Saints Peter and Paul, an old, venerable, great institution here in Naperville, its current capacity is in excess of 1,300 parishioners. In our first 4 phases of construction, ICN is physically limited to a maximum of 692, half that size. Even at our full intended capacity, which comes in phase 5 in the year 2060, our physical capacity is limited to 1,146 worshipers, which is less than the existing St. Peter's and Paul Church. And St. Peter's and Paul is currently a cohesively existing religious facility in the neighborhoods, in our neighborhood, has had no adverse effect on the neighborhoods in the least, just as our capacity won't affect our neighbors. Regarding variances mentioned in the flyer, the flyer is correct. We are requesting 2 small variances, and both these variances are supported by the city, as Sarah noted earlier. However, it is incorrect to say that, that the variance is not to build a buffer fence, while at the same time imply that there is no buffer between our project and tall grass. Now, what's happened here is, I'll go back to that flyer. If you see right here, they've got a schematic of our intended site. And that is absolutely our site, with one exception. I suppose it just didn't fit on here, but it's leaving off the 200 feet from this area right here, going to our east, where the tall grass homeowners subdivision is right now. So there's 200 feet not shown in here. So I can understand some great concern from neighbors not seeing that. Hang on. In addition to that, it's interesting to note that, so that area I'm talking about is this area right here. This is where the flyer's dimensions ended, and here's where our property line ends. And here's tall grass over here to the far east. That is a 200-foot buffer. It's 130 feet of detention open space area and 70 feet of land banked parking, which I'll discuss more in a few minutes. So, regarding our other variance regarding the variances, as Sarah noted, we are requesting to not build a fence here on the north side. From the way that the flyer was drafted, it appeared that we were not going to have a buffer between the neighbors and our property. There is no question we're going to have the required 6-foot privacy fence and extensive landscaping on the south property line and on the east property line, buffering our site from our neighbors. It's on the north property line that we are not. The reason for that is this is the tall grass greenway. We saw no reason to put a 6-foot fence up here, blocking the view of a nice open area, and also considering that our neighbors, closest neighbors on that side are over 200 feet away. But I'll talk about that variance in a few more minutes. The next point in my next point raised on the flyer is the fact that we are building this facility in a residential area. And a vast majority of the emailed objections are very concerned about this facility being built in a residential area. The answer to why our religious facility is being built in a residential area is very simple. That is where they are supposed to be. General zoning concepts, goals, and standards always encourage religious use to be in residential areas so that they're closer to the people they serve, and also to discourage the use of more valuable commercial property for religious purposes. This general concept is not only supported fully in the City of Naperville Code, but also an application here in Naperville, as can be seen by, that's in the center there, that's St. Margaret Mary Church. It's clearly in a residential area. And as also to note, it's the driveways exit and enter onto a residential street. We've got Compass Church, clearly in a residential area, and do note the parking is within 10 feet of the property lines, just as allowed by City of Naperville Code. We have Holy Spirit Church, again, clearly in a residential area, and also clearly having the parking lot within 10 feet of the neighboring residences. St. Raphael, well, that sure looks like it's in a residential area, just where it's supposed to be. And notice the parking within 10 feet of the neighbors. And also note that, this church also exits and entrance is onto a residential side street. And not to forget the Presbyterians, we've got Naperville Presbyterian right here. Again, clearly showing it in a residential area with parking and ingress and egress onto a side neighborhood street. As you can see, these existing houses of worship are located in residential areas with parking located 10 feet from the neighboring lot line and serviced by residential streets. And yet, these neighborhoods where these churches are located are thriving. They're thriving communities supported by their houses of worship, and the houses of worship did not negatively impact the neighborhoods. The last point I'd like to get to from the flyer, I'd like to address is the question of, it's both an objection and a question, and that is, why are we talking about 5 phases over the next 40 years to build this facility? To better understand the answer, we have to look at the history of the site. In 1998, this 13 acres site was purchased by Hope Community Church. In 1999, Hope obtained a special use from Will County so they could use this property for religious purposes. In 2002, the City of Naperville did their Southwest Sector Plan, the Sector G plan, on how they wanted the master plan for this area and how they wanted development to occur in the future. And in the Southwest Sector Plan, they designated this 13 acres as a community facility, reflecting the church's ownership and intention to expand their use on this site in the future. In 2011, I do want to make a note. This slide I'm showing here, we gave our slides to the city a day or two ago, and they posted that. This slide was not in that posting. There's several of these slides I've added, so I just want to call attention to that. But anyways, in 2011, ICN purchased this property and submitted a petition for annexation and rezoning of the property to R1 for their and indicated there are plans that within 10 years we wanted to expand this property as a religious facility. During the 2011 annexation hearings, and again, this is another new slide coming up, we had multiple public hearings. Now, again, I want to repeat, in the annexation, all we're doing is asking to annex the property into Naperville, so in the future, we could build our facility. We had absolutely no site plans, no building elevations, nothing, no engineering, because we didn't know yet what we were going to do. And yet, during those multiple public hearings back in 2011, the vast majority of objections were over what we were going to build in the future. It actually got a little crazy. Some objectors actually created plans and presented them as that these were our secret plans that we're going to build, and it was ludicrous. One of them took the Alabaster Mosque and put it on the site with no stormwater detention, no open space, and we were asked to defend this, and they weren't our plans. We had none. So we spent an awful lot of time answering questions and fending off, what were we going to do in the future. So clearly, our neighbors were very concerned about what would happen in the future. To alleviate these concerns of our neighbors, as evidenced by the 2011 hearings and being the major point of contention of what was going to happen in the future, we are now presenting our plans for now and the future, the next 40 years. What this does is, hang on for 1 second. What this does is, the community does not have to worry about what's coming up in the future. We're telling them now. By way of example, I say worry about what's happening in the future. Even now, people are saying this is going to be the largest mosque in the Midwest. It's not even close. Now, we can't make it the largest. These are the plans, these are agreeing to, and they're fixed. This is protecting the neighbors, so they don't have to worry about what's happening in the future. Now, as you know, we can't materially deviate from these plans. If in the future you want to build a bigger mosque or a taller minaret or something, we'd have to come back to the city. We'd have to petition the city, notify all the neighbors, and have another public hearing. This is why, with the city's encouragement and support, we have this 5-phase plan. Now, going back to this last point on that flyer I wanted to address, but I do want to make a comment. If I had received that flyer, I would have been signing up as an objector to this project. There's no question. But I think, because if I was confused on it, I'm highly confident all the neighbors were, and I think that's what resulted in a lot of the objections that we're hearing right now. Now, I want to make it very clear. I am highly confident these points were unintentional. No one's trying to, the Homeowners Association wasn't trying to kid anybody. I think it was just an accident. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to address that flyer and the points raised in it. So now, with a better understanding of the facts and background, I can resume my regularly scheduled presentation regarding this project. So, the Islamic Center is the owner of this 13+ acre site located on 248th between 95th and 103rd here in Naperville. It is important to note that in anticipation of the growth from developments such as Ashwood Subdivision, Ashwood Crossing, Emerson Park, and now Islamic Center, 248th Avenue and 95th Street were both designated decades ago as major arterial roadways designed and intended to carry high traffic volumes. Accordingly, the city is planning to widen widen 240th Avenue between 103rd and 95th from 2 lanes to 4 lanes with a median. And construction at this point is supposed to begin in 2024. This road widening will improve the overall traffic flow in the corner and in this corridor. Now, the Islamic Center desires to develop this site to accommodate a mosque, a school, a multi-purpose hall, and gymnasium. Very similar facilities located on many existing religious facilities in town. I'm most familiar with the Catholic faith, and almost every Catholic church around here has a school, has a gymnasium, has a multi-purpose room, etc. Now, the site will be built in 5 phases over the next 40 years. 1 phase for each of the uses. Consistent with the city code, we will commence the first project within 2 years of the issuance of a conditional use. To be very clear, this is not a 40-year building project. It is anticipated that each phase of construction shall take approximately 1 year. During the construction phases, the Islamic Center will closely adhere to all city requirements for maintenance of construction sites. Additionally, during the non-construction time periods, which is the bulk of the time, the grounds will be planted with grass and maintained in a manner consistent with a first-class religious facility, and of course be compliant with all city code requirements. The first phase will be the initial mosque. Construction hopefully will begin in this year, 2021. This will encompass the majority of the ultimate building and many of the uses ultimately planned for the facility. The initial mosque construction will be a 2-story building with a basement, consisting of approximately just over 26,000 square feet. And in answer to Commissioner Bonsal's question, initially, this will provide space for 692 worshipers. It will also include space for offices, conference rooms, washrooms, etc. Times of worship for the Muslim faith. They pray. They pray 5 times a day, 7 days a week, not necessarily in a mosque. The prayer times are generally starting before dawn and ending after dusk, except for Friday, which is their holy day, which I'll discuss in a second. Attendance at prayer times is light during the non-Friday holy days, amounting to no more than 50 to 100 individuals at any one time. These prayer times are generally 1 hour or less. We also see this as seen in their existing locations. It's about a 1 hour service, and just like masses in my parish. And just like at masses in my parish, I'll tell you right now, the 6:30 mass is not widely attended. Now, it is true on Friday, their holy day, they have 2 main services, one around noon and one around 3 o'clock, and these are the most heavily attended services. The first service will attract approximately 400 to 500 worshipers. The second service will have a somewhat smaller attendance. In addition to standard worship times, there will be other services and activities at the facility. Ramadan is their holy time, just like our Easter, and that usually results in a more attended services, just like the Catholics, just as what they call them, the Cheesters, Christmas and Easter. In addition to times of worship, the mosque will also be used for religious requirements of weddings, interfaith activities, and special observances, just like in my parish. Now, phase 2. Now, let me show you in here Phase one will be, here's where the mosque facility will be located. You can see phase one, and the parking area will be constructed with the phase one. Phase two, which is the school, that's this building located right here, and we'll add this parking spaces here. The school will be a two-story building consisting approximately of about 42,000 square feet, 25 classrooms, space for support activities, offices, storage, etc. Just as at my parish, they have two types of schools at ICN. One is a full-time school, and the other is the weekend school, which we always affectionately call Sunday school. The full-time school is intended to provide full-time schooling for up to approximately 250 students in grades kindergarten through 5th grade. There also is a preschool planned. The full-time school will operate during normal school days and school day hours, Monday through Friday. The weekend school is on weekends, and it'll probably occur between 9 a.m. and 12 a.m., and may have up to 500 children attending. Phase three is this area right here, and extra parking back in this area, and also along here on our southern border. This will be the multi-purpose hall, constructed approximately in 2040. The multi-purpose hall is a one-story building consisting of approximately 23,000 square feet. It'll be used for conferences, interfaith events, and wedding receptions, etc. The hall will have a full-service kitchen and seating for a capacity of 500 people. Now, I've seen in a lot of our objections that we've gotten copies of, a lot of people are indicating that we're planning a multi-service hall with a capacity of 2,000. We have no idea where that came from. It's really 500. And use of the hall will be mostly on Fridays through Sundays. Now, in this phase three, this is also the phase in which ICN intends to build their 84-foot tall minaret. Note, this is decorative. There are no stairs. There is no access allowed up in the tower. Phase four is going to be our gymnasium. That's this building right here. With the gymnasium, there will be no additional parking added. And this is a one-story building consisting of approximately 27,000 square feet. And it just provides an area for the congregation to a space for indoor activities, volleyball, basketball, open gym time, etc. The use of the gymnasium will mostly occur on evenings and weekends. The fifth and final phase will be the mosque expansion. You'll see right back here, there's phase five. We're extending onto this phase one. We're adding on to the mosque. And this is the year 2060. Now, this will enlarge the facility by 3,200 square feet and increase the worship occupancy by 454 worshipers. That combined with our initial 692 means the the total capacity of worshipers is just a little over 1,100 people. Now, as we saw in Sarah's presentation, the final elevation will look like this. I want to bring this up to point out, again, our building height is 29 feet. Our neighboring single-family homes height 35 feet. Our dome will be 52 feet tall, and our minaret will be 84 feet tall. And again, the minaret will be built in phase three, in the year 2040. A big concern with every religious facility ever constructed in the history of man, well, at least since automobiles, has been parking. So now here's where we've got the City of Naperville requirements, and we've got 20 years of experience. ICN's been in town for 20 years and are currently existing 3 facilities, so we've got a good handle on parking. So, as we can see, phase one required parking, 249 spaces. What are we providing? 348. Phase two, 280 only required, provided 402. And you can follow numbers all the way down. Now, I do want to note, in phase 5, I pointed out that there is going to be additional parking, bringing up the spaces up to 719. In addition to that, we have space land banked for an additional 182 spaces, as can be seen on this slide. So here's the 719 spaces, all in dark. You can see around here. Then back here, you'll see the edge of our detention pond. And right here, we've got 182 spaces land banked in case we need them. Oh, again, I apologize. This is a new slide also. Now, this also brings us to our variances. I know Sarah touched on this. We're requesting a variance here on the along 248th. What happens is these parking spaces on our far western border are sticking 10 feet into the required 30-foot setback. This helps mitigate. Excuse me. We've agreed to the city. We've agreed to add additional mitigation. We're going to install extra landscaping along this area to block the area next to the road. And also remember, we're not facing the fronts of any houses, and the houses across the street are quite a ways away. Now, staff is very supportive of this variance request, and that's because it doesn't really impact any residential area. And in our opinion, the additional this 10-foot encroachment helps keep our entire facility additional 10 feet away from our neighbors to the east. But more importantly, if we can easily take this entire site and move it 10 feet to the east. Okay, 10 feet closer to our neighbors, it's not that big a deal. We can do that. But if we do that, we're going to lose these 62 land bank spaces. Right now, there's 182 total here. It'd be down to 120. So I think we agree. I think the city agrees with us that, you know, if you balance the 10-foot against keeping the facility farther away from our neighbors to the east and protecting those 62 or 60 parking spaces, it's a better balance and a good reason to support our variance. Our second variance request, as I touched on earlier, was our fence. Again, I'm repeating myself a little bit here, that we will have full fencing and landscaping on our southern portion here and on our eastern portion here. It's up here on the north where, you know, it just doesn't make sense with this beautiful greenway, this beautiful open space, to have a 6-foot solid fence across that whole area. I think we're much better off with what we've agreed to do, and that is have 30-inch landscaping running the entire length. I think that'll look a lot better and keep a better open look in this area. Probably our biggest legal objection, objection has been over traffic, specifically traffic impacting on our neighborhood residential streets. As I noted before, 95th Street up here is a major arterial designated roadway. 248th is, now right now it's, you know, as our engineer calls it, it's a 2-lane cow path. But in 2024, that is being changed to 4 lanes with the median, and that is a major arterial. And also 103rd down here is a minor arterial. So if the neighbors are concerned about cut-throughs through the neighborhoods, it just doesn't make sense to me. If I'm driving from the northeast, I'm coming along 95th, why would I leave 95th to go through a community of side streets to come back out on leave a major arterial, go through side streets to end up on a major arterial to take me to the religious our site? It just doesn't make sense. I don't think, you know, I'm like, can I say there'll never be a cut through? No, I can't say that. Of course there are, but it doesn't make sense. It would be out of the way, slower, and inconvenient. Now, regarding 248th Avenue, I can't say that for some reason. Again, this is another new slide. As noted earlier, and as noted in your agenda packet, that 248th and 95th were designated as decades ago as major arterials, roadways designed and intended to carry high traffic volumes. And again, as I mentioned, the city is going to widen that in here, they think 2024, it's 4 lanes. So this being a major arterial, going to 4 lanes, with our exclusive left turn lanes into our site, where the city is going to do a traffic signal timing on 95th and 248th as part of our work, combined with the fact that our peak traffic times fall outside of peak rush hour times, combined with the fact that ICN, especially before 240th is widened, our Islamic Center has agreed to retain personnel and or police officers to assist with traffic management at our peak times. Now, will that work? Well, we've proven it's worked. We've got over on Ogden Avenue, had a facility for, I can't remember how many years now, and there was a great concern about traffic on that area. We committed to retain police officers and have our own personnel guiding parking and directing on this, and it's been, I think staff can back me up, it's been a tremendous success. My clients are used to it, they're experienced at it, and we're doing the same thing here. So these factors combined assure a reasonable traffic flow with no additional improvements being required. My conclusion is supported by our traffic study. A traffic study was performed by KLOA, a local and very professional and very respected traffic engineering company. Their traffic study was reviewed and approved by the city of Naperville, and it concludes that our traffic is supported on the major arterial roadway with no further improvements required. Also, remember, let's keep this in perspective. I showed you all those other churches, the aerials, and most of them, the parking lots exit out onto, with the Holy Spirit in it, but the rest of them all exit out onto side streets. Here, we have a major arterial at our front. There are no street stubs coming into our lot from any other subdivision, and it'd be actually inconvenient for our parishioner, our worshipers, to use those side streets. So we are better equipped than the site for traffic than the sites I showed you, and those sites I showed you have all been in existence for years, and they don't have the traffic problem even though they go onto side streets. Now, of course, we do have our traffic engineer available on these, should be signed in for any questions you may have. Now, although not in our purview, in your purview or jurisdiction, stormwater control is of utmost importance in any new development. The city has approved our preliminary stormwater plans, and there are a few important points to note. This project will collect, currently, our site, there's no control of stormwater from our site. Stormwater can go from our site right onto our neighbors, to our south and to our east. So this project will, by engineering standards and approved by the city, of course, will collect all water generated by the site and route it to the detention basin. The detention basin will detain the water and greatly reduce the rate of flow leaving the site, which will be a benefit to the downstream drainage system. I didn't know this, I just learned it on this project, but all the tall grass area has to comply with an even more restrictive release rate than the city's normal requirements. Of course, this project complies with the more restrictive release rate. No water will be discharged from our site into properties surrounding the project. All water will be directly directed into the drainage system in the parkway to the north, which was designed to handle such flows. Again, we have our engineer on hold here in case in the event you have any questions. Therefore, reasons to support our project. it's in the right place. It's in the residential area where it's supposed to be by pursuant to city code. In addition to that, it's on a site that's been designated for religious use since 1999, which was also included in the 2002 Southwest Sector Plan, and also reaffirmed when we annexed the property in 2011 with the city. The plan is absolutely consistent with the former approvals given and on this project. We have also proven 3 times now that we're great. Now, we're not good neighbors, we're great neighbors. A side story, I remember when we put the Ogden place in, oh man, we had some man neighbors. Now they're best friends with my clients. I think some of them will be speaking on our behalf tonight, or 4 weeks from now when we get back on the agenda. So at this point, I respectfully request your affirmative vote, and of course, I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Len. Appreciate that. Let me begin with the commissioners, if there's any questions at this time for the petitioner. All right, that's a first. I guess I have questions for staff that I'd like to go ahead and raise at this time. We have received the packet. We have read the statements that have been provided by our neighbors on this, and the predominance of the concern relates to potential traffic concerns. So I guess my first question in this I'm gonna go ahead and direct it to you first, Len, and then is Ray Fano on the call?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Ray. Okay, so I guess I don't know who to ask this up first, but I want to know what the definition is of a major or a minor arterial, first of all. So if you guys want to just keep note of my questions, that way you can answer them as they come up. So what's the definition of either of those? And then second of all, what does the city, I mean, obviously it's in our packet. It says the city does not have any concerns. Maybe Ray, you can expand on, why you don't have any concerns. And Len, if you have a traffic engineer, expert that you can point to, and if not, if you can at least just address it anecdotally. But the main concern is traffic. That's what we're hearing from our neighbors. Now, again, I am not a traffic expert by any stretch, but when I look at something like, you mentioned 95th Street, and I don't know, Ray, when you get to the answer to my question, what the difference is between 95th Street and what the future 248th Street will be. But I look at 95th Street. My wife is an employee of the Naperville Public Library on 95th Street. It's right next to Neuqua Valley High School, and there's Frontier Park behind it. So there are moments in time when there, again, anecdotally, I'm not an expert, but it seems like there would be more people entering and exiting, Neuqua Valley, the library and the park than would be at ICN on 248. So how do the roads compare, and how would you be able to address, what that looks like from an actual traffic perspective? But why don't we start with Ray, since you can give us the definition of a major versus minor arterial, and tell us what 248th Street will become.
Sure. So minor arterial roads like 248, they have higher speed limits than your typical local or side street. Obviously, they typically have a speed limit of 40 to 45 miles per hour. Volumes of traffic are 2 to 3 times more than your local side street.
Excuse me, Ray. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ray, but could you just tell everybody who's on the call who you are and what your role is?
Sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ray Fano. I'm one of the project engineers here in the city.
You work for the city of Naperville.
Correct.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so higher speed limits, volume of traffic generates about 10 to 11,000 vehicles per day, compared to local and side streets, which are a fraction of that. And then to compare to a major arterial, we think about Route 59. Now that's literally a strategic regional arterial that carries a volume of traffic of like 50 to 60,000 vehicles per day. So just in comparison, minor arterials, 10 to 15, maybe even 20,000. Major arterials, a lot more, 40, 50, 60,000 vehicles per day, higher speed limits.
Okay, so 248th and 95th Street would be both considered minor arterials?
So actually, 95th Street is considered a major arterial, whereas 248th is just a minor. And examples of minor arterial around the city is like Naperville Boulevard is also a minor arterial. Deal Road, Aurora Avenue, and I think I said Book Road already, and Chicago Avenue. Those are all examples, great examples of minor arterials throughout the city.
Okay, but they're 4-lane road with higher speed limit. And will 248th Avenue have a median?
So the plan right now is, yes, it's going to have 2 lanes in each direction, and there's going to be a median. That median is going to have a designated left turn lane at each of those side or connecting streets like Lap Lane and Honey Locust and stuff like that. So.
Okay, thanks. Len?
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
No, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it's my understanding that 248th is going to be built to the major arterial standards. That's what the staff, staff memo indicated.
So the standards are the same. The road will look like a major arterial, but it's just a matter of the volume that causes the designation change. Is that right, Ray?
So no, right, it's always been a minor arterial, and so right now the capacity right now is around just a little over 12,000. From 95th Street to 103rd Street, it varies from 12,000 to 14,000 vehicles per day. Right in front of this location, it's around 14,000 and change. So that's the current capacity. And so when, let's say in 3-4 years or whenever that time comes, and 248 does get widened to the full minor arterial standards, obviously that capacity greatly increases to a little over 18,000 vehicles. So in 3-4 years or whenever that time comes, the capacity will greatly improve to better serve that surrounding area.
Understood. Okay. I think I saw Commissioner Bonsall first, and then I'll get to you, Commissioner Thanakkar. Thank you. Commissioner Bonsall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to piggyback on what you have been talking about. So what is the timeline? Currently, I believe, since it's currently a 2-lane road, what we heard from Mr. Monson is that it's going to get built in 2024, or it's going to start getting built into 2024, a widening. So when is the timeline for, what is the timeline for ICN project to start and complete, is the first phase to complete versus the road widening? Can we get some perspective on that?
Yeah, thank you for that question.
Well, so Len mentioned the fact that, 248 is going to get widened in 2024. So if I can clarify something, we actually have it budgeted in 2023, but that's like best case scenario. If everything turns out perfect and everything goes by smoothly, it's 2023. But realistically, with everything that's been going on in the last 12 months, our best guess right now is about 3 to 8 years. But right now, so I just want to say not so much 2024, but 2023 is where we actually have it planned on paper. But again, that's assuming everything just works out perfectly.
Do you know if it's in the CIP at this point?
in the CIP, it's actually shown to be built in 2023.
Okay, all right.
And what's the timeline for the ICN's first project to start and get completed?
The mosque itself will be this year, 2021. The school will be the next project, and that's in 2030.
So Len, would you say it would be completed, begun and completed in this year?
It'll be, I can't answer that. They hope to start this year. I can't say it'll be completed this year. It'll probably be a 1-year cycle for construction.
Okay. And
Now,
in the interim, there'd be traffic control provided by your client.
That is correct.
Okay, Commissioner Bonsall. And
yeah,
then
another follow-up question on that is like, so you're saying next phase is in 2030, but once approved, that can be, I mean, is it good? Can they not start sooner, or will they start sooner, or will they have to wait till 2030? I mean, how does that work? Once it's approved, then
No, that's a great question, because it's really a function of time and money. They don't have the money. So will it start in 2029? Could be. It will start in 2031 too. Could be.
now my concern is about the road project, since the road project is still not there, and it is going to start possibly in 23 and maybe later. And if we start we complete the first phase and we start the second phase, let's say in 23.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to talk aloud about.
Oh, sure. No, of course. And but again, there's the uses are non-concurrent, because we'd have the mosque and the school, and the limited concurrency, I should say. And if 248 is not approved, they would have to continue with using traffic control, traffic officers, etc.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, if this is built and there's demand for it, I mean, I think city engineer, Ted, the city manager, city council, they would take the demand into consideration as well. I mean, I can't speak on their behalf, obviously.
That's a good point.
Seems reasonable. I'm sorry, Commissioner Thaneker, you've been patient.
No, that's no problem. This question is for Ray with the city. So it's interesting to me that the 248th Street expansion has already obviously been planned. I assume largely predicated on the density of the residences in that area. Very familiar with it. For a development like this, is that is going to be introducing a fair amount of volume. Was the expansion of 248 based on the existing scenario where it's residential, and then would this be an introduction of new volume on top of that, or was this expansion of 248 as part of the master plan already contemplating this volume based on a development in that space?
Yeah, great question. So 248 was actually planned decades ago, as like you said, as part of that master plan. And back in 08 and 09, when the market crashed and everything went south, a lot of our capital improvement projects got kicked in the can and just postponed or delayed. This is one of those projects that was a casualty of that 08, 09 crash. And so, decades later, it's finally at the forefront, and we have this opportunity to finally build it. But this has been in the plans and in the works for a long time. And this ICN project is not because of that. This has been in the plans for a long time. So.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Commissioner? Okay. Len, do you have a traffic engineer with you?
Unless he fell asleep. Mike Wuthman, are you there? Mike, can you hit the raise hand? I don't know if he got knocked off or what.
No, he's here.
No, he just got unmuted.
Unmute, and then Gabby will swear him in.
Perfect.
I'm here.
Hi, Mike. If you could state your name for the record, I'll swear you in really quick.
Michael Worthman.
Thank you. And please raise your right hand and respond. I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Worthman, my question is, do you see, just, on behalf of your client, any issues with the current road configuration, given the phasing of the development? And what are your projections of, since we don't have, I didn't see the table, so what are your projections in terms of the number of vehicles in a particular time frame? I got to call that up here, but if you could just speak to that.
Yeah, let me give you a little presentation. Michael Worthman with KLOA. We were retained to perform the traffic study on this. One quick point regarding the major collector. One of the big difference between a major collector and a local street or a collector road is that the major collectors have a significant more capacity. As you've heard, they're typically 4-lane roads with a median, separate left turn lanes, separate right turn lanes, and traffic signals at major intersections. So these arterial roads are meant to carry higher volumes of traffic, operate much better in order to accommodate this traffic. As it pertains to the development, as you've heard, access will all be provided from 248th Avenue. We'll have one full access drive and one right in, right out. A separate left turn lane will be provided on 248th Avenue. Under the current 2-lane conditions, we will widen the road to put a separate left turn lane to serve the site. All of the access will be from 248th Avenue. There will be no direct access from any of the residential roads. As you've heard and we've discussed, 248th and 95th Street are both designated arterial roadways. They will be designed and improved to carry much higher traffic volumes. As you heard, the city is going to widen the road within the next couple of years. More importantly, the impact of the facility will be reduced for several reasons. If I can go through those quickly. As you've heard, the majority, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's always useful if you could just give a very brief overview of KLOA's expertise in your background as well, because I think there's a lot of people who don't know KLOA and don't.
No problem. KLOA is a traffic and transportation firm out of Rosemont. We've been in practice now. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. I've been practicing traffic engineering now for 30 years. I am a registered professional engineer in the state of Illinois and also a certified professional traffic operations engineer. We've done significant work in the city of Naperville, both for private developments as well as for the city.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, so
sorry to interrupt you.
No, thank you. I probably should have done that up front. From a traffic standpoint, there's several things that should be noted. The majority of the prayer services, as you've heard, have a limited number of attendees. You've heard 50 to 100 at these. When you consider that you may have 1.5 people per car, the volume of traffic is not that significant. You do have the majority of your traffic occurring on the Friday Holy Prayer services. Those are 2 services. The unique thing about those is that they only occur once a week, similar to a Catholic church where it occurs on a Sunday. The difference is these occur on a Friday. However, they occur in the middle of the afternoon, outside of the peak periods, those rush periods from between 6 and 9 in the morning and 4 and 6 in the afternoon, where you have your higher levels of traffic on the roadway system. Traffic volumes are typically significantly lower during the afternoon or lower during the afternoon, so there's more capacity on the roadway system. It's my understanding that when you have the Friday prayer service, when you have the larger attended services, there are no other activities occurring at the facility based on the faith. So all you'll have It's the service occurring on those Friday services, which helps to reduce the traffic that will be generated. And similar to any religious facility, you have those peak periods that only occur for about a 15 to 30-minute period before and after the services. So while we are generating some higher traffic volumes, they're concentrated on one day a week in the afternoon, and they're for short periods. It's that 15 to 30-minute period in the morning or before the service, excuse me, and 15 minutes to 30 minutes after the service. As you've heard, to help manage that traffic, ICN has committed to use traffic control personnel or police officers like they do at their other facilities to help with managing that traffic and getting the traffic in and out in a very efficient manner. Basically, the roadway system has sufficient capacity, even under the 2-lane roadway, to accommodate the traffic that will be generated. As you've indicated, Chairman, similar to 95th Street, where you have the school and the park and the public library, there will be some times, particularly on those Fridays, where there will be some congestion, but it will be for a short period, that 15 to 30 minute, and then it will clear pretty quickly.
Okay. All right, that was really my my interest here is just to hear from expert witnesses on that. So that's why we asked Ray and Mike for you to both provide that information for us. So otherwise, it's my conjecture.
No problem. Thank you.
Or worse, mine.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So any other questions from the commission for either the expert witnesses from Sarah or from the petitioner? Not this time. Okay. Thank you. Just a reminder that, this is going to be we've got a lot of speakers signed up. It's 10:32. We will end the meeting at 11 o'clock tonight, and we will continue the case to February 3rd. So I just want to read a couple of quick introduction comments, and then I'd like to begin our public testimony. So staff's going to display the names that were submitted through our online speaker sign up that were either in support or opposition to this case. Each slide is going to be displayed, once, and the full list of names are going to be added to the case file and will be available by email to anybody who requests to obtain a copy. All right, so now I'd like to begin hearing from members of the public who've signed up to speak on this case through our online speaker sign up. Yes, Commissioner Bonsall.
Just a quick thing. Since we are running less on time, and I don't know how the speaker sign up is there a way we can hear from some of the major ones today or main ones, or do we have to go through a sequence? How do we, or if they have any organized presentation?
Well, let me finish my introduction and then we'll move to that. So there's 160 speakers who signed up to provide testimony on the case. And since we know that it's unlikely that we're going to get to all the testimony by 11 o'clock tonight, we're going to be prepared to continue the case to February 3rd. Speakers who have signed up but don't get a chance to speak tonight will be automatically moved to the February 3rd meeting. And those speakers should not sign up through the online speaker sign up again for that meeting. To answer your question, Commissioner, it's my understanding, Ms. Madley, you can clear this up, but it's my understanding that it's our practice to take speakers in the order in which they signed up. So unless there's some other way that we can do this, that would be my preference, that we continue to follow the practice the way it's been done. Ms. Mattingly, is there anything that you would change on that?
Nope.
Okay.
That's correct, Chairman Hinson. That is our typical practice.
All right, so again, just a couple of quick notes for the public. Planning and Zoning Commission is not City Council. Our purview is very, very limited. We are restricted to look at land use only. What's before us is conditional use for a religious institution on land that was zoned and planned to be that way from the get-go, now 22 years ago. Conditional use just means that there's a condition, there's a hearing, and we're hearing it. we understand that the predominant concern among all of the residents is traffic, and we have that issue throughout the city of Naperville. In most cases, I consider that to be a good problem to have, because if you're in a city where there's no traffic problems, it's probably not a great city. So we live in a place that's high demand, and there's a lot of traffic as a result of that. Sounds like our city engineers and the petitioner's engineer have been acutely aware of any traffic concerns and are beginning to address those, or have addressed those. Again, we're limited to a very specific things that we can look at in this capacity. That said, we are here as your neighbors and as fellow residents of the city of Naperville to hear you, and we want you to be comfortable speaking publicly and state your case. We would request, since there are so many people who have requested the opportunity to speak, that you keep your comments specific to the case, and also try to avoid repeating what the last person or last 5 people just said. You are welcome and you are invited to say whatever you wish, and we will listen to you for that. However, if you just happen to agree with what has recently been said, you may state your name, say you agree with the previous speaker and you support the case, or you do not support the case, and move on. But again, please don't hear me saying anything other than we welcome your input. But just for the efficiency of time, this case will get voted on, and it's just a matter of when. So at this point, what I'd like to do then, Ms. Manningly, is ask you to call our first speaker. And remember, when we get to 11 o'clock, we have to end the meeting. That's our rules and our bylaw. So I will interrupt the person who is speaking as it gets close to 11 to just remind you that we have a countdown. All right, first speaker, please.
Thank you, Chairman Hansen. We will actually start by showing the list of names. And as you stated, Chairman Hansen, the list of names were submitted through the online speaker sign up, either in support or opposition to this case.
Okay.
And I'd just like to add to that, just to provide some context, this presentation I'm going to be running is 36 slides long. We anticipate it to go 18 to 20 minutes. So that's going to bring us right to 11. I don't know if it might be appropriate to extend the meeting a few extra minutes just to allow time for closing at this time, or if you want me to just jump into it.
Yeah, all right. If we're going for 20 minutes of slides, then I'd like to make a motion that we extend the meeting to 11:15. Have a second, please.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Athanakar,
I agree.
Bonsall,
Agree.
Habel,
Agree.
Hansen,
Agree.
Lacerda,
Agree.
Richelia,
Agree.
Van Summeren.
I agree.
All right, thank you.
All right, 1 second while I get it going. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah. Do you happen to have a tally of those, those who support, those who oppose?
I do, yes. For those that specified that the project they were voting on was for the Islamic Center of Naperville, we had 1,610 in support and 305 opposed.
Okay, and then do you happen to know the number of support versus no support of the ones that didn't specify a case?
Not the specific number. My guess would be about 70 in support and probably about 30 that were opposed.
Okay, that's great, and we'll have that in the public record and on the website as well.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. All right. Well, it's 11 o'clock, and really, I think it'd be unfair to begin oral presentations now, since we're going to adjourn the meeting. So, Mr. Munson, your client and you are in agreement with a February 3rd continuance. Len?
Sorry about that. Yeah, we talked to the city. I think it appears that the February 3rd meeting is going to be quite jammed. So we originally indicated the 17th, but whatever, of course, whatever you guys put us.
Well, what I'd like to do is, since we've got a lot of people to hear from, so I'd like you guys to be ready for us to continue on the 3rd.
Okay.
We've had some discussion about adding a special meeting as well.
Yes.
Right now we're targeting February 10th for that, and then we'll have our regular scheduled February 17th meeting as well. So,
okay,
we'd like to get through as many people as we can.
Of course.
So why don't we go ahead and plan for February 3rd continuance, and we hope that the speakers who've signed up will return for that meeting.
Okay.
And then I think we kind of laid it out at the beginning of the meeting that we were probably going to go long. Anyway, so Gabrielle, do we need to vote on the continuation, or is that do we not need to do that?
Chairman Hansen, yes, we will need to make a motion to continue the case.
All right, great. So I'd like to make a motion to continue PZC 20-1-052 Islamic Center of Naperville to the February 3rd, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Athanakar,
I agree.
Bonsall,
Agree.
Habel,
I agree.
Hansen,
Agree.
Lucerto,
Agree.
Rochelia,
Agree.
Van Summeren.
I agree.
All right, thank you. So we're going to continue the meeting. So ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for how this works out. It's public hearings for us, but we look forward to beginning to hear from all of you on February 3rd. That meeting begins at 7 p.m. There are a few cases that night, so we will be beginning to this case a bit later than that, probably, if I had to guess, maybe 8:30 or 9. So that leaves us, there's no old business. Is there any new business? Anybody? Not seeing any. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the January 20th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Yeah. All right. Who seconded?
Lucerto.
Lucerto. All right, great. Mattingly, roll call, please.
Athanakar,
Agree.
Bonsall,
Agree.
Habel,
Agree.
Hansen,
Agree.
Lucerto,
Agree.
Rochelia,
Agree.
Van Summeren.
I agree.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you on February 3rd. Have a great night.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.